of these fighters stands. Clip Macklin gonna break it down, give you the scoop. Hold on tight, this ain't no ordinary loot. UFC's the battleground where warriors collide. Die Hard MMA podcast, we won't hide. Clint's gonna dig deep, analyze each brawl from the underdogs to the champions standing tall. The fury, let your instincts rise. Feel the adrenaline rush, it's time to defy. Die Hard MMA, we're in for the thrill. Get ready for the madness. Let's make that bankroll spill. Let's make that bankroll spill.
What is going on, degenerates? Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show, the last one of 2024. That's right. This is the last undefeated show for the year. We've got UFC Tampa. We are going to take one final look at this card, you guys. I have watched these fighters face off. I have watched them weigh in. I will let you know who looked good, who looked bad on the scales, who won the mental game, who won the stare down. And then we're going to take everything that we already broke down on Monday, pair that with anything we've learned since then, and we're going to give you all the information you can handle so you can make the best bets possible tomorrow at UFC Tampa and try to end the year on a positive note. Let's win some money, baby. We are coming off of a really, really good week, and I want to duplicate that performance. I want to have another good week to close out the year. And not only that, you guys, but little teaser here for you. If you've been around for more than just the last couple of months, I always try to do a what we call the pay for your MMA holiday parlay, and that will be premiering this evening. I'll get that all set up for you guys and ready to go. I'll post that up as soon as it's ready. It takes a little bit of extra effort there on that one, though, so unfortunately I can't present it to you here. I just need to let you know on this show to watch out for it on all the social media platforms. How's everybody doing in the chat? TH Red Seed, we've got Abdi. What's going? ABDI Abdi. What's going on? Best MMA music, best intro music for an MMA show award goes to. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I will gladly hold that trophy. Freaking A, ready to go. Mac, what's going on? You're the man, coming up a year listening and watching. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Don't always agree, and that's perfectly fine, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you for showing up here. Steph Kerr in the house. What's going on? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get the show rolling. A fun little addition to the show. Last week, it was suggested that I try to present photos or something along those lines, so you guys can kind of have an idea of what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm talking about. And I am nothing if not a man of the people. So audio listeners, I apologize. You guys are shit out of luck. But everybody on here on YouTube tuning in, watching this show live or on replay, sorry, got something in my eye there. I will have a little bit of a slideshow to go here with the rest of the show for you guys. So first fight of the evening, we have got women's MMA, we've got Josephine Knutson. She's taking on Piera Rodriguez. And as you guys can see, Piera Rodriguez looking good on the scales today. Big flex, big smile, in good spirits, good to go. Josephine Knutson a little bit more on the stoic and intense side coming in here into this one. These two match up really, really well. I'm going to have to figure out something for you guys, maybe prep a little bit earlier, because right now all I've got is the weigh-in photos for you. I don't have the face-offs or anything like that, unfortunately. But when these two did face off, it was pretty intense. You've got Knutson trying to get in close. Piera Rodriguez kind of wasn't having it. She was just kind of smiling at her. You know, this spot has really intrigued me all week, you guys. Piera Rodriguez is a plus 215 underdog. This line has been kind of dipping and dodging and upping and downing. And, you know, everyone wants to parlay Josephine Knutson. She's Kamzat's girl. The UFC wants to push her. She's got the O right now. She is undefeated. Piera Rodriguez, though, we've seen Knutson struggle in the grappling department. This is very much a striker versus grappler type setup, except a little bit of striking on the side of Piera Rodriguez, if we're being honest. She is not a zero on the feet. She will be able to actually hold her own there, and she's got some decent pop. She's got some decent power in her hands on the feet as well. So I could see Knutson caving to these takedowns, and Piera Rodriguez just looking like a pick'em type of price tag, or maybe even a hindsight favorite if she comes out with the right game plan. The issue is we're dealing with back-to-back L's for Piera Rodriguez, and you absolutely have someone in Knutson who the UFC is pushing, someone in Piera Rodriguez who's shown very bad fight IQ. So it makes it tough to put your money on somebody like Piera Rodriguez because of that fight IQ problem, right? The fact that she may not stick to the game plan, the fact that she might headbutt you once she's on top of you and get disqualified, like that makes it terrifying. If you guys have access to DraftKings, the plus 3.5 spread, where if this thing goes to a decision and it's in any way close, or it's a split or something like that, and you can win even if they give it to Josephine Knutson, that plus 3.5 is minus 165. And I actually think that's a pretty good price tag because this fight should be competitive. I actually would not be at all shocked if Piera Rodriguez is able to tire out Knutson with grappling and then put her on her back a little earlier in the fight than we're expecting. The way she was going against Carnelossi in her last fight, I might sprinkle the round 3 prop. I'm just saying, like the fact that she can lock up an arm triangle, the fact that she can slice her way up to mount and get on top of this girl and start pounding on her in the final rounds. Like, I don't know if she's got the cardio to do that. I don't know if the grappling edge is going to be quite wide enough for her to go ahead and get a finish. I don't think it's going to come early. I don't think it's going to be a situation where Piera Rodriguez just runs through Knutson. But I do think if she gets on top of her, there's a very real chance of her pounding her out or opening up a sub or something like that, especially once Knutson gets tired. So I lean dog or pass here early on. The plus 3.5 spread, I think, is probably the safest way to go. The over 2.5 is like minus 500, which is just disgusting. Don't lay that kind of a price tag. And then the round 3 prop for Piera Rodriguez, frankly, you guys, it's redonkulous. It's like 22 to 1, 24 to 1. You'll be able to find some 25 to 1. You'll be able to find some big numbers out there if you want to sprinkle that round 3 prop. One thing I do want to remind everybody, have to correct myself here a little bit. I thought this was the small cage for this fight. It is not. It is the large cage. I said that on the Monday shows that this was going to be in the small cage. I was thinking Apex for some reason, even though the card is UFC Tampa. I don't know. Don't ask me. Sometimes I don't use my brain. So we are going to be in the big cage, but we do have the new crappy gloves. And those gloves have absolutely been messing with the finishing rate. They have been messing with how hard people can punch. So I expect a couple of overs on this card. Like even on some fights that you would expect probably don't go the distance, I think there's a chance that they could end up going the distance. And we've had a lot of finishes the last couple of fights, so I think a bunch of people are going to be ready to just pile on in with the finishing times. And good times are back. Violence is back in the UFC, baby. Let the good times roll. And then we could get a bit more of a picky pokey type of card on this one, where people are going the distance a little bit more than we're used to. So don't pivot too hard on these finishing props and stuff like that just yet. I think you want to look for people that have access or utilize knees and elbows rather than their hands. You want to look for people who have submission opportunities. The gloves aren't going to stop. So you absolutely have more of an opportunity to finish that way. What is going on, Dad Bod 1463? My kind of guy. Raw Torque in the house. We've got Golfing Stars fan saying subscribed. And Wall, I do appreciate you subscribing, Golfing Stars fan. I do want to let you guys know the Die Hard MMA podcast is not going to be continuing here on Home of Fight. My contract is up and we will not be renewing. So starting first of the year, I'll be on my own YouTube page. So make sure you guys, even if you do subscribe here, I'm fully happy if you guys want to continue supporting Home of Fight. The show ain't going to be here. So make sure you head on over to my own personal YouTube channel, the Die Hard MMA Podcast, and get subscribed over there for me. If you don't know how to find it, if you have a difficult time locating it here on YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll reply to a bunch of the comments so you guys can find my handle that I use and stuff like that, so we can make sure we're in the right place moving forward, because 2025 is it's our year, baby, and it's going to be just me. I'm going to be running the show, and we're going to be on our own. So again, appreciate you. More than happy to have you continuing to support the Home of Fight, but just so you know, if you want to follow the show, you're going to have to go with me. Cade saying that Pierre isn't going to be able to take her down, brother. Knutson front kicks will keep her at distance. Knutson 30-27. That's entirely possible, Cade. It really is. It's totally possible. I think Pierre Rodriguez is physically stronger than people are giving her credit for, and I think she'll be able to crash the pocket. Paul agreeing on Knutson by decision, and frankly, that's fine. I do think that's the most likely outcome, but minus 175, that's not the kind of price tag that I plan to be laying in this kind of a spot. So we'll see here. All right, guys. Next fight up, we have got Davey Grant taking on Ramon Taveras. And here we've got Ramon Taveras for you on the scale. He was one of the last fighters to weigh in today. He looked like he had a really tough time cutting weight. You can see from his face here in this photo, he is not a happy camper. You know, nobody on weigh-in day really is having a good time, but his face is pretty sucked out. He's not having a good time. Dangerous Davey Grant, he's always happy-go-lucky. He's always got a smile on him, even though he is one of the bigger guys. Even though he does cut a lot of weight, he does not seem to have much of an issue as far as making weight goes every single time we see him out there. Now, when these guys got together and they faced off, we've got a decent size advantage for Dangerous Davey Grant. You guys know I do enjoy a good height and reach advantage here in this kind of a spot. And I've talked about this fight. When I broke it down on Monday, I feel like this is a old versus young type of situation where Taveras is kind of a young, unpolished version of Davey Grant. Now, Davey Grant's never been the most technical fighter on planet Earth. You know that. He's absolutely a guy that wants to get in there, bite down on the mouthpiece, swing hooks, and test chins. So I know that there's a lot of people who are hesitant to go to war with Davey Grant. He's turning 39, I think, in just a couple of weeks or a couple of days. So he is a bit up there. He is a bit older, but Ramon Taveras, you guys, is not proven at the UFC level. This is a Dana White's Contender Series guy who's getting his first opportunity against real competition. Mind you, his first fight in the UFC was against a fellow Contender Series fighter, so it almost feels like a bit of a layup to me there. That first fight doesn't really count, and they went to a split decision, so it doesn't tell me a whole lot of anything. So I know Davey Grant is long in the tooth. I know he's old, and I know he's dropped some split decisions, but this man has dropped split decisions against some of the contenders of this division. He's gone to war with some of the best fighters this weight class has to offer. Now, just because Ramon Taveras is a bit on the younger side, is that enough for me to throw all that experience out the window? No. Ramon Taveras has been he's been knocked out on the regional scene. I don't think he's as good as Davey Grant is, frankly. And yeah, you know, when you're older, your durability tends to slip a little bit. He is in his prime, but he's late to the UFC at this point. He's been knocked out twice in his career. He's coming off of a split decision where he missed weight, and that's maybe the only reason why he was able to keep going for a hard 15 minutes. I don't like this guy, you guys. You know, I like my blind Dana White's Contender Series fade angle. I had to kind of pump the brakes on it because the UFC's gotten better at, you know, booking these types of fights. So the Dana White's Contender Series guys are actually winning a little bit more often. So it's not a blind fade on the Contender Series guys, but I'm just not sold on Ramon Taveras being a mainstay in the UFC. And Davey Grant has shown time and time and time again that, in fact, he is a mainstay in the UFC, and he's going to be around for a very long time. Davey Grant actually opened up as the betting underdog in this spot. And you guys, this is one of those wild ones where, you know, you look at where the ticket count is versus where the money is, etc. Everybody is on Ramon Taveras. Everybody's betting on Ramon Taveras. It's like a 75-25 type of split. However, the line is chugging the other way. So we've gone from underdog plus 140-ish at opening for Davey Grant all the way the other way to being the minus 125 favorite here, now the eve of fight time. So I got plus 105 on Davey Grant. I looked at that, scratched my head, and went, that doesn't seem right. And so I pulled the trigger, man. We're in, and I'm happy to say we beat the line move. You know, and it's funny because you watch the lines kind of do this a little bit, and there's a little bit of resistance right around the minus 115, minus 120 type of area, and it's still tug-of-warring right now as we speak. Actually, I just saw it tick back from minus 125 to minus 115. So people are coming in on one side or the other here. People absolutely have an opinion. The best way I can say that you probably want to go ahead and play this fight is to head on over to my other sponsor. That is none other than Bet openly, you guys. They've got the absolute best lines in the game because it's 1% juice. So the winner pays that 1% and everybody gets better numbers. Davy Grant, a minus 105 on that platform. You can lay minus 105 if you want to on DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, whatever, or you could get plus 105 on Ramon Taveras. And this is the kind of back and forth type of fight that's going to get booked. So best numbers in the game, and you can pick your side here and definitely look forward to having your bet booked over there on Bet Openly. Link in the description below. If you guys haven't signed up, make sure you get signed up and start saving money. We're closing in on $9 million saved for gamblers just by using the platform. Let's see here. Yeah, Brennan saying Davy Grant coming off of a neck surgery, and that is something that we definitely do need to go ahead and mention. But frankly, this guy's tougher than a $2 stake, you guys. So, I mean, I know neck surgery is never really a thing you want to hear. At the same time, I'm not a doctor. I couldn't tell you how intense that neck surgery was. I don't know if they fused 6 of his discs together and he can't move his head anymore, or if it was like they removed a cyst in his neck or something. You know what I mean? Like there's varying ranges of what a neck surgery is. So I don't know that that's necessarily the death knell for Davy Grant. It's not a positive. It's not helping, that's for sure. But I don't know that a neck surgery closes the gap between these two guys. You know, just for me. Just for me. All right, let's go ahead and keep on rolling here. Cade says Ramon Taveras fighting with a heavy heart. Brother passed away. That could end in round 1, you guys. Hey, we have seen exactly 2 examples of this, Cade. So that's a great point. And just for people to know, we just saw what happened when Anthony Smith's family member died, right? I also know what Damon Jackson looked like when his family member died. So I would be looking, frankly, at an under on this one, you guys, because if that's accurate, if Ramon Taveras is fighting with a heavy heart, we have 2 examples of fighters who have come into the octagon in that exact circumstance very recently. One of them came out, steamrolled his man, subbed him, tapped him out, knocked him out, whatever, and then hugged his family and cried in victory. The other one came out, gave it his best go, and then decided to let his opponent punch him in the face until he was done, and the ref stepped in on him. So we saw 2 different results for the same emotional crisis. Neither of them went the distance. So if you ever thought that maybe you liked the over, I would back off with that kind of information just a little bit. I don't know Ramon Taveras personally, so I can't say if he was or wasn't going to fight emotional coming into this kind of a situation. But with fighters, they tend to be emotional people. I would guess the answer is yes more often than no. And I already kind of thought this was going to be a finish prop type of fight. I kind of like the Davy Grant knockout, you guys. Like I said, this guy's been knocked out on the regional scene twice before. Plus 350 for Davy Grant to go ahead and catch a bag here or catch a body on Saturday. I'm all about that. I don't mind plus 350 Davy Grant by KO. That's probably going to go in one of my stupid parlays. Ramon Taveras by KO on the other side makes some sense to me too. However, I will just caution you guys. Davy Grant's not an easy person to finish. And that's why I went Davy Grant money line here instead of just violence, because I like to have both fighters kind of contributing to my under if I'm going to be playing some type of a violence bet. And Davy Grant, 13-7 at 39 years old. The only way he's losing is by submission. He's got 4 professional finish losses, all 4 by sub. And I don't see Ramon Taveras going out there and hunting for next. I don't see this guy jumping Gilly. I know he's got 3 submission wins on his record, but he's not a sub guy. You know what I mean? So it would have to be Davy like leaving his neck out on a takedown attempt or something like that and just kind of gifting it to him. That is plus 800. I'm going to have to do some stalking. That is not something that I was prepared for coming into this. I was never even considering Ramon Taveras by submission. So frankly, you guys, I know him more as a boxer striker type of fighter. I don't even know if he's got any notable grappling accolades or anything like that. Let me see here. Sorry. I know this is great for the podcast while I try to Google and find this guy online. I'm just going to roll through some of his photos here real quick and see. Sometimes when people get like belt promotions and stuff like that, or while they're training, they show off, grappling photos and stuff. He doesn't have anything like that. So I'm going to have to do some digging to see what his grappling chops look like, because I'm not spotting anything right off the bat. If one of you guys does know already, fire off in the chat. Let me know if he's got some kind of a belt or something like that. All right. And we've got Justice in the house. What's going on? Salt Dirt, what's going on? Mushroom Philly MMA in the house. Vito, how we doing? Saying, I know it's a different sport, but how you feeling about the Vikings this year? I'm feeling good about the Vikings, baby. I may have signed the death knell for my boys, but they're winning the division, you guys. At minimum, we're winning the division. So, if you guys aren't football people, just give me 2 seconds, plug your ears. But you right now can get my Minnesota Vikings to win the division at 5-1. I know they've got to get past the Lions, and everybody is absolutely obsessed with the Lions, but we are one single game behind them. The only deciding factor between their record and ours is the fact that we lost to the Lions, which we will be rematching on the final game of the regular season, you guys. The Lions have to deal with the Bills coming up next, which, frankly, I think Josh Allen's going to have something to say about the Lions and their record. They could lose that game, in which case our records would match. Then they have the Bears, the 49ers, and us. Now, the 49ers are laying down, so I fully expect them to go ahead and win that game. The Bears, however, just barely didn't beat this team on like a late field goal and a really bad coaching call. If it wasn't for that, the Bears would have actually beaten the Lions on Thanksgiving, and I can guarantee you they're going to not forget about that, and the Lions will be coming off this hangover of the Bills game. I'm predicting the Lions to actually lose their next 2 games in a row. I think they're going to lose to the Bills on Sunday. I think they're going to lose to the Bears, believe it or not. The following week, they will win against the 49ers, and then the division's going to be on the line against the Vikings. We are going to have identical records, and the entire thing is going to be on the line for the last game of the regular season, winner take all, and you can get 5-1 on my boys to go ahead and be the ones to take that down. Let me remind you that, similar to the Bears, we were one little field goal away from going ahead and winning that game as well. And I think it was a pretty bad scheduling spot for the Vikings, if I recall correctly. So I'm feeling good about my boys in purple. And I think we're going to be having something to say about the end of this, at the end of this season here. We're in the playoffs, obviously, and maybe we could win our side of the bracket that way. But I think there's a chance that actually we can straight up steal our division from the Lions the way we're playing right now. We'll see. Let's freaking go. Mushroom says Lions losing to the Eagles is good too. I hear you. Rod Torque says Grant at 3.5. Yeah, it's minus 210 though. So I think that makes sense. But again, we just talked about it here. I think there might be fireworks, especially if Ramon Taveras is fighting with a heavy heart, like has been reported. I do think there's an outside shot that he comes out swinging. And if he does that, this could be a barn burner, you guys. And then I don't want to bet the spread on a fight that should be violent. You know what I mean? I want the spread on a fight that I think is going to go to a greasy split decision. That's just the way I play it personally. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys, next up, Jamie Lynn Horth takes on Miranda Maverick. And Jamie Lynn Horth is absolutely massive for this weight class. You guys should see the two of these women face off. She is built like a freaking brick shit house. Miranda Maverick, shorter, absolutely on the smaller side of stature and things of that nature, but also an absolute brick shit house. This is a tough fight for me, you guys, because I'm in the business of fading Miranda Maverick, not because I think she's a terrible fighter or anything like that. I do think that she is limited, and then she struggles against people who she can't bully. I feel like Jamie Lynn Horth will fall straight in there as that you can't bully me type of category. The problem is I know that Jamie Lynn Horth is just not very good. She's back-to-back with split decisions in her UFC run so far. Won one, lost one. You can make an argument that she should have probably lost both. She is going to be better, I think, on the feet than Miranda Maverick. Maybe not better. That might be the wrong way to put it. But with her kicks and her reach and her range, I think Miranda Maverick, who is not a very good or very athletic striker, is going to have a hard time closing the distance on her. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So I think Miranda Maverick is going to struggle to close the range and use her boxing and her hands the way she wants to. And as long as she stays at kicking range with Jamie Lynn Horth, Jamie's going to be scoring where Miranda can't. And I think that could be an issue. Now, once Miranda does get inside, then she should be able to go ahead and get the wrestling going. Now, we've seen a couple of different times where Miranda Maverick's wrestling has not been what we all thought it would be. It's not been as effective as we all would like it to be. She knows how to get on top. She knows how to win. And when you've got two people that weigh roughly the same amount, one of them is about half the size of the other, let me tell you guys from personal experience, it sucks being the tall, lanky person underneath the short, squat, fire hydrant, brick shit house of a fighter when they're sitting on your chest. You've got these long, lanky limbs that people say are an advantage grappling. And if you can't throw up a triangle or an arm bar, they don't do you a damn bit of good. And you can't actually get out of that position from underneath the short squat type of fighter. So I could see Miranda getting on top of Jamie Lynn Horth and then Jamie really struggling with that type of bottom position. Regardless, I can't justify minus 625 on Miranda Maverick. I know she should win this fight. She is training with some star quality power out there in Colorado. You know, she works with my girl Rocky, who probably should still have gold wrapped around her waist. She's training with Rose Namajunas, who I know is a little bit on the downside, but definitely somebody you can still learn from. Definitely an elite level fighter. So the cardio is there, the durability is there, the wrestling is there. She is 27 years old, so she's gonna be improving. I actually think Miranda Maverick could get top position and find her way to a submission if she's able to kind of wear out Jamie Lynn Horth. I think she could tap her out. However, it's going to be later in the fight. It would be like round 3 probably, if Jamie's just completely exhausted and can't defend the grappling situations. But if Jamie is able to keep this fight standing and keep it at range and kind of discourage some of the takedowns from Miranda Maverick, all of a sudden this minus 650 might look like the worst line on the entire card, you guys. Just your PSA for the week, right? Miranda Maverick probably wins this fight. She probably does. She should. But this is exactly the kind of fight that goes to a split decision because one girl kicked and the other girl just kind of sat on top of her chest. So I don't want you to parlay this one up and lose your big parlay on the week because Miranda Maverick is the one who busted it because Jamie Lynn Horth wins a split decision that probably should have gone the other way. So be careful, you guys. Be careful out there. Now, if you want to take a shot on Miranda Maverick by submission at like plus 600, if you want to play the sub 2-3, you know, sub round 3 is 22-1. That's more my language, right? Like, let's take a look at maybe doing something like that. But Miranda Maverick by decision is minus 300, you guys. Like, the books are telling you. It's Miranda. She's not going to do shit. She's going to get on top of her. She's going to hold her down as much as she can, and she's going to grease out a decision. That's all she's going to do in this spot. Over 2.5, minus 520. Money line, minus 625. Miranda by decision, minus 300. It's gross. It's a gross fight. Cade says we tell ourselves I can't get to the point laying minus 500, and then the bettor gets creative and bets a method of victory, ends up losing the bet on greed. The sports books want us to pass. Just lay it, fellas. Hey, you can go ahead and take that approach if you want to, my man. It's not greed looking for an angle. I'll completely disagree with you on that. Looking for a number that has value as opposed to taking a bad number that does not. Just laying it has worked for all of 2024. You guys watch out. 2025, I don't think it's going to be quite that easy. We saw this in the last 2 years, calendar-wise. 2022 was a massive favorite year. 2023, people lost their asses because dogs were winning left and right. So it will turn eventually, and favorites will not keep on being just gravy train the way they have the last couple of months. But if you want to take that approach, good luck to you. Completely understand. Aaron in the house saying, what's up, Clint? Unfortunately, going to miss this last card of the year going to a concert. I totally get it, Aaron. I totally get it. I'm actually going to be pissing the wife off because we have our annual Christmas party. So I'm going to be checking my pocket. I'm going to have the fights on in my pocket, trying to hide it from the wife if she gets mad at me for looking every couple of minutes. So I can kind of try to stay up with you guys as best I can, but she's not going to let me. So it's going to be tough. I'm probably going to miss most of this card too. All right, guys. Next up, you have got Miles Chapo Johns, and he's taking on Felipe Lima. Felipe Lima looks absolutely incredible. Johns made 146. Lima made 146. Both these guys are natural 135 pounders. You would not know it by looking at them, but no issues making weight for either guy. Johns tends to struggle pretty badly on the scale. You guys know I like to try to fade Miles Johns, partly because of how hard he struggles on the scale. So that kind of changes my read on this fight just a little bit. Those extra 10 pounds probably means his cardio is in a little bit better shape, probably means he's got a little bit more gas to go the full hard 15 minutes. Felipe Lima minus 245 favorite, Miles Johns plus 200. And I actually like Felipe Lima here in this spot. Now, I know you guys probably think I'm crazy for wanting to lay that kind of a price tag. Miles Johns has a very good record as an underdog. He just wins fights, but he's always a pick 'em against guys that frankly he's not quite as good as, and then he wins a decision 29-28, big moment, hold your breath, it's almost over, he grabs onto an ankle and suddenly gets top position and grinds his third round out to go ahead and get a win. I will give Miles Johns credit where it's due. He knows how to win a fight. He absolutely knows how to win a fight, and that's something that has cost me in the past trying to go against him here. But Felipe Lima looks like the type of phenom that we want to get behind. Jungle Boy is 26 years old, fighting out of Brazil, and he's training at all stars. He's been submitted one time. I believe that was his MMA professional debut. And on short notice, flying halfway around the world, he put an absolute clinic on Muhammad Naimov. Got his chin checked in that fight, showed his wrestling was good in that fight, showed his cardio was good in that fight. I like everything I see about this kid. He's bigger than Miles Johns, taller, I guess is maybe the right way to put that, because Miles Johns does have an absolutely massive back. You know, he's super yoked and super strong on all the good vitamins, absolutely, even though he would deny it. When they faced off, it was kind of funny, actually. Lima gave him the look up and down, the you ain't shit type, I'm gonna look you up and down type of thing. I love it. I think Miles Johns has topped out, frankly, you guys. I feel like we've seen his ceiling. He's been the same guy he's been for like the last 2-3 years. He just, he's got better cardio since he got better drugs underneath him, but that's basically it. He's been submitted in the third round twice, I believe. And no, sorry about that. He got TKO'd by Mario Bautista, not submitted. I apologize. But John Castaneda got him subbed out in the third round. I do think he would have absolutely brutalized the ghost of Cody Garbrandt. That would have been a key victory for him. But instead of that, he's getting a young phenom in Felipe Lima, who's 13-1 and just lit the world on fire in his first UFC fight. Champion in another organization, coming over to the UFC. I like Lima. Here in this spot. It's going to be another spot where I will expect the round 3 finish here from Lima. I always try to fade Johns in round 3 because it's happened a couple different times, and we just saw that Lima was fully capable of doing that in his last fight, so I expect that maybe he can do it again. I kind of like Felipe Lima by sub plus 2,800. Miles Johns has a bad tendency, especially when he's beaten up and or tired, to go ahead and stick his neck out in those takedowns and things like that. It is what it is. I'm going to be looking for the favorite here in this spot. It might be greasy. It might be another decision because that's what Miles Johns does. But I'm going to go ahead and side with Felipe Lima personally. Saltern asking, is Felipe Lima the bigger guy? Yeah. Taller, definitely. But Miles Johns, like I said, bigger back, broader shoulders. So it's kind of that short squat thing. It's not a huge height difference between the two of them, but yeah, he is slightly taller. And I do think he's going to be better off with the ranged strikes and things of that nature. Riff Raff in the chat says, no super chat into the year. Appreciate you for thinking of me, Riff Raff. So what's going on? Once again, I'm going to go ahead and repeat myself here for you since you might have missed the beginning of the show. We're moving to my home channel, you guys. I'm reviving the Die Hard MMA Podcast YouTube channel. We will not be here on Home of Fight anymore. Home of Fight they're kind of shifting their game plan a little bit, so we don't have super chat going or anything like that on YouTube. That's just kind of the way that they have kind of done things. That will be something that I prioritize, obviously, heading on over to my channel. So when I am fully up and running and you guys can support me and stuff like that over on my own YouTube channel, the super chat stuff, definitely something we can kind of look at. One thing you guys should know, though, YouTube takes like 55% of super chats. So like if you're donating to support somebody, I know it's easy to like click a button and do it through YouTube, but there's better ways to do it because YouTube literally takes more than half of the money that you're trying to send to the creator that you're trying to support. So just something for you to bear in mind. Like that's where, buying a shirt or subscribing to a Patreon, something like that. Those are the things that end up helping more because YouTube's not going to steal half your cash. Next up, you guys, Fernando Padilla takes on Sean Woodson. We didn't have a single weight miss today. So Padilla 145.5, Woodson 145.5 as well. My guy, Fernando Padilla, guys, he looks incredible. He looks absolutely incredible. Look at this man. He's getting his man muscles. Like, this is a young kid who's filling out. I am so high on this guy. I am so hyped about the future of Fernando Padilla. And I know he's let down in a couple spots. I know he's made a couple of young kid rookie mistakes in a couple spots. He's still just a kid. He's 27 years old. Look at those abs. He is putting in work and he is feeling himself up there. Sean Woodson, one of the biggest guys in the weight class, always struggles to make weight. He's got the head of a light heavyweight and he's freaking skinny. You start out so big and bulbous on top of your head, and then it goes down to ankles that are about this big around. Like that's where all of his weight comes out of. He has no calves. Oh man, you guys know this is my dog of the night. This is my dog of the card. We got Fernando Padilla at plus 140. He's down to about plus 130 at this point. Sean Woodson, again, kind of like Miles Johns. We talked about it just last time. I think we've seen his ceiling. I think we've seen the best of Miles Johns. And because of that, I'm ready to go ahead and fade him when the UFC is putting somebody in front of him who they think can beat him, someone who they think can surpass him. We know the UFC is trying to wave that Mexico flag right now. Umar is about to take the belt from Merab, so they're going to lose their Mexican champion. So Fernando Padilla is a kid that they can get behind. He's going to be matching the height and reach here of Sean Woodson, something almost nobody does. And I know that goes both ways, right? Like, if they're matching height and reach, obviously it's something both guys have to deal with. But I think from what I've seen, I like the way Fernando Padilla strikes. I like his speed. I like his power. I like the accuracy of his punches. And also on top of that, the fact that his grappling game is leveling up as we speak. Like every time we see this kid in the cage, he's getting better on the mat. So when you're getting better in all areas, when you can touch your opponent on the chin, who's known to have tall man's defense and be a little bit chinny, I think Fernando Padilla is the finisher in this spot. Sean Woodson, if it goes to decision, also knows how to win fights. So I can see him winning and greasing out a decision using his boxing. However, I don't think he's going to like it when Padilla hits him. I think Sean Woodson, when he gets cracked, is going to start backing off. We've seen him get in trouble with power punchers before, and I think Padilla is going to put it on him and be able to go ahead and get him out of there. So I do absolutely have a bet on Fernando Padilla. That was the first bet that I made this week, was I jumped in on the dog. I like this kid. I think he's got a big time ceiling. I think he's got a big time future. And I think that run towards the top of the weight class starts now. On top of that, he does make some, young kid bonehead type of errors, but he's durable as shit. He's never been finished before either. So if you think he's going to get boxed up by a guy who's got better hands or something like that, then he can take it. Like we've seen him be in there on the losing end of stuff, and he's been able to take that beating. So I like being able to rely on that. And Sean Woodson also has a tendency to fight close, you guys. He's got like 3 or 4 split decisions in the UFC. So even when he's winning these fights, he's just kind of not getting on by. Whatever happened to Luis Saldana? Salter with the real question. I have no idea. I have no freaking clue. I had an absolute pile on Saldana the night that he destroyed Sean Woodson and then did nothing for 10 minutes. We ended up in, I think, a draw? That was like one of the weirdest. Oh, no, that was a split decision. Did it end up being a draw? It was a draw. They fought to a draw because he absolutely had Sean Woodson finished, out cold, done, and then just didn't follow up and do shit for the next 10 minutes and ended up with a draw because 10-8 in the first. One of the weirdest situations. Yeah, DeFranco promoted him to janitor. Oh, demoted him to janitor. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. He lost a stripe on his belt after that one. Oh, man. As I was saying before, you guys make sure you check out Bet Openly for that one, because if you're looking to get on Padilla, you'll get plus 142 over there. If you're looking to take my lunch money and lay it with Sean Woodson, minus 142 on the other side. So definitely still going to give you a better number no matter which side you are picking. That's the way to go. All right. Let's keep this bad boy rolling. Appreciate all you guys being here to talk with me here in the chat, making for a good Friday show. We got to make the last one of the year a good one, right? Right? Got to do it. All right. Next fight up, you have got Yoel Alvarez taking on Drakkar Klose. Both guys made 156 pounds. Drakkar Klose looked pretty good on the scales today. I will tell you guys, I actually had another creator reach out to me with a picture of Drakkar Klose, and he was like, does he always look like that? Is this always how he looks? And I was like, you know what? I'll be honest with you. He looks a little soft. I mean, he's in shape. Look at him. I mean, I don't have abs. I can't say shit. But usually he's a little bit more defined than this. And we have seen Drakkar Klose at times not be all the way dialed in before. It's been a couple years since that's happened, but I'm just saying it has been the case before that has taken place. So I do kind of think he looks like he's a little bit softer in the body. I'm maybe overanalyzing, but he made weight. He looks all right. Yoel Alvarez, another guy who I just have no freaking idea how he ever makes this weight class. Smiling, flexing, abs for days. Holy hell, dude looks incredible. And you know what? It's funny because we tend to see fighters kind of thrive off of each other, countrymen, stuff like that. It's a weird thing where you get vibes coming from somebody who you support. And with the rise of Ilia Topuria, before Ilia was making waves, Yoel Alvarez was the guy that was supposed to be the Spaniard, right? He was supposed to be the guy that took the belt for Spain. And I think he's going to be exceptionally motivated stepping into this fight after seeing what Ilia has done and kind of trying to live up to the hype that they had around him until he, lost 1 or 2 of them a while back. But he's a very good fighter. He's a physical beast. And he's taking on Klose, a guy who I just don't think has anything for him. So Yoel Alvarez, you guys know, I love his style, right? He strikes long. He uses lots of kicks, knees and elbows once you get a little closer inside. And then if you do get closer inside and look to grapple, the dude's got absolute sick filthy submissions. He's a wizard on the ground. He'll triangle, he'll armbar, he'll guillotine, he'll roll for ankles, he can sweep you. The guy's so good on the ground. Now, Drakkar Klose has been a bit of a dark horse in this weight class for a while now. He's always looked very good. He's always been very competitive. He's big, he's strong, he can slam people, he can wrestle, but he's also a bit of a decisionator. So, like, even though he fights the way a finisher would fight, he never actually finishes anybody, right? He did get that slam over Joe Selecki where Joe just didn't do the right thing trying to look for a submission, and then he got slammed on his head. You're not slamming Yoel Alvarez. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's strong enough to lift that much weight, but like, that's never happening. Like, once he gets Yoel Alvarez in anywhere near that kind of a situation, that man will adjust. That man will stand back up. He will slap on a different sub. He will make sure you're not going to try and put him down on his head. And frankly, that's a lot of weight to lift. So we've also seen Drakkar Klose be in a bit of compromising situations. He's been knocked out before. So I do like Yoel Alvarez, and I like him inside the distance. Like, minus 140-ish is the inside the distance line, and I think that's the way to go on this one. You could chalk up, throw him in a parlay, minus 440, minus 450. Maybe Drakkar Klose is able to get the wrestling going and hang on and make it close and make it competitive. I do think that Yoel Alvarez is the side, gets his hand raised, gets the win. But I do think it's by finish. And frankly, they're not giving you any meat on the bone as far as his finishes go. You know, his knockout prop is plus 275. The submission prop is plus 165. I said knockout on Monday. I kind of think he looks to use the knees and the elbows, and we've seen Drakkar Klose hurt on the feet a couple different times. You go back to when he fought Jeremy Stevens, when he got shoved and he basically got a concussion from being pushed and the whiplash from that. Like, I think this big monster of a man who shouldn't be able to make 155 pounds is going to be able to hit him with an elbow or something like that hurts him. And that'll be the beginning of the end. Now, whether or not you get the wrestling from Drakkar Klose, that absolutely opens up the subs. So don't pick one, guys. Like, the numbers, I don't feel like it's juicy enough to really plant your flag. So the inside the distance at minus 140, I really think that's the way to go. Next up, Ottman Azaitar takes on Michael Johnson, 156 pounds for both men. Azaitar, all smiles up there. Potato power, feeling good, got his supplements back. They didn't steal his bag for this one, so he's all right. Michael Johnson, all smiles himself, looking like he's in pretty good shape. He's starting to kind of lean out and get a little scraggly like these older fighters tend to do when they're towards the end of their careers and they keep cutting weight and stuff like that. You tend to see the wear and tear on the body sometimes a bit. I kind of feel like that's the way Michael Johnson is going here. On top of that, cutting down to 145 a couple of times and then coming back up to 155. I'm not sure his frame ever recovered. He used to be a lot more filled out, a lot puffier, that kind of thing. So, man, this fight is tough. Guys, PSA for the week. Just don't lay this chalk price tag on Michael Johnson. I know so many people that are just like, Michael Johnson, easy button. It's like, guys, at minus 200, that's exactly the one spot in the world you never want Michael Johnson. This guy can look like he's Anderson Silva out there. He can look like the best striker you've ever seen. No one can touch him, and then he's done. Like, just tap him once the wrong way and he will crumble. Like, this man does not have the durability to hang once the fight really gets going. Now, he's got all the skills in the world when compared to Ottman Azaitar, but what Ottman Azaitar is good at is forcing a fight. This guy will come forward, he will get in your face, he will stay in your face, and then he will swing hooks and overhands, and frankly, he is fast. Like, when Ottman Azaitar goes, he is quick. Now, he doesn't have much of a gas tank, so if you force him to wrestle, he will slow down, and I think Michael Johnson has that option in his back pocket, but I don't know if he's going to physically be able to handle Azaitar in those type of grappling situations. You could look at like a round 2, round 3 for Michael Johnson if he can tire this guy out and, get him going a little bit late, that kind of thing. But I kind of feel like Azaitar nukes him, you guys. That's the, I'm going to switch hats here for this one. That's my tinfoil cap here on this one. Plus 350, Ottman Azaitar by KO. I've just seen Michael Johnson go out on his shield way too many times. I've seen way too many people crack him with that overhand right and him just not quite be able to get out of range quick enough. And one thing I don't know that people are kind of mentioning enough on this fight is that Azaitar is actually the younger fighter here by 4 years. Now, 34 years old, you kind of start having people fall off a little bit. You kind of have people starting to slip a little bit. And I like to fade people when they get closer to 40 years old. That 4-year age gap is pretty significant here in this spot. I think that's going to be a problem for Michael Johnson because he is slowing down. He is getting older. I think Azaitar absolutely could crack this guy. And if he does, it's night-night. When Azaitar touches you, you go down. So it's KO or bust for Azaitar. I kind of think we get your classic oops Michael Johnson performance finally. I'm going to call for the upset. I'm not putting my money on it. I could see this fight going a million different ways. Michael Johnson could hit takedowns and wrestle his way to a decision. He could, finesse Azaitar until he's tired and then crack him and club and sub him. Azaitar could hurt him in the very first round and call it a day. So there's a lot of ways that this fight goes. I'm going to roll the dice, I think, on Azaitar, but I don't know if my money is going to get there. Next up, Navajo Sterling and Tuco Tokos. A very interesting fight that I really don't care about. Navajo Sterling looks like he is, you know what, guys? I have to apologize. Just 1 second. Okay, I am so sorry, you guys. I had the phone buzzing, and my wife knows that when I'm doing a show, it's either it's an emergency if you call multiple times while I'm doing a show, in case real life problems are happening. But I guess she forgot that I had my show going, so I had to check and see if there was a real world problem I had to deal with there. I'm back. I'm good. We're good. Navajo Sterling 206, Tuco Tokos 206. This is a battle of guys that the UFC, one the way UFC wants to push, the other one they don't. Tuco Tokos is basically a throwaway fighter, and his opponent here, Navajo Sterling, is the fighter out of CKB, and they're wanting to get behind this kid. He's built well. He's got abs. He's got a big frame. Coming from a good gym, ties to not Anderson Silva, Israel Adesanya. That's the guy the UFC wants to win. He's the minus 700 favorite in this spot. It's just tough because Tuco Tokos flew halfway around the world to make a short notice UFC debut. He is the opposite of Felipe Lima. He's the one that ended up getting starched in his UFC debut with the bad travel situation. So I don't know if we saw what he's really capable of. I don't know if we saw his A game. And so maybe this fight plays out closer than any of us are expecting. But I still kind of think the young kid gets it. I really haven't looked into this one hard enough, you guys. I'll be honest with you. Like I mentioned, it's kind of the throwaway fight on the card. I'm not as familiar with Navajo Sterling as I'd like to be or need to be. I am not laying this price tag until I know more, but I am going to pick Navajo Sterling to go ahead and win this fight. He's all the way up to minus 800 at this point. People are parlaying the shit out of him. This is the kind of fight where the 5-0 young prospect that just doesn't have enough experience in the game could get exposed. And this is the kind of card where that kind of shit happens. I think he's going to win. Don't get me wrong. Navajo Sterling is the pick, but I'm just not playing that kind of a number. What's going on, oldie? You filthy animal. What's going on? All right. Next fight up, we have got, maybe the people's main event. Like one of the best fights on the card here. Daniel Marcos, Adrian Yanez. 136 on either side for these warriors here. Daniel Marcos locked in as fuck. Absolutely dialed. Look at this man. And then his opponent all smiles, Adrian Yanez. Everybody loves Adrian Yanez. We have every reason to. He's a fan favorite. He's fun. He likes Dr. Pepper. He's silly. He replies to fans online. He's a good dude. Love Adrian Yanez. And in fact, he just joined up with Team Bet openly. So for even more of a reason for us to go ahead and cheer for him. The only problem with that, you guys, is I think Marcos is better than him. When they face off, Daniel Marcos is also the slightly larger fighter. He's going to have a slight reach advantage. He's got a slight height advantage. I like the way he selects his shots. And I think Adrian Yanez, the way that he fights, he relies on speed and explosiveness, and he keeps his hands low, and he just kind of launches himself into his opponents. Whereas you've got someone like Marcos who will time their shots, and he'll go first and third. He'll attack and then let you counter, and then counter that counter with like a big shot. I think he's going to knock him out. I really feel like Daniel Marcos is going to knock out Adrian Yanez in this spot. Yanez has been finished by KO twice. I did mention on the Monday show, we have to give a little bit of grace. One of those was leg kicks. It also was a very trying time for him when he lost his coach and he was trying to make everything work at the gym. And he took over being the head coach and running and operating and all that kind of stuff. So you can't say that was the best version of Daniel Marcos. Absolutely. But we still have to face the fact that those things happened. He didn't make very good adjustments, and he did get clipped and knocked out by Rob Font, who's a guy that doesn't really put people down. I think Daniel Marcos is a much better striker than Rob Font is. Different, I guess, is a different striker, maybe not much better striker. Power and precision, shot selection versus volume, it's a different ball game. But I think Daniel Marcos has a lot of opportunity to KO Adrian Yanez, and the dude's undefeated. The UFC obviously looking to push him. He was in a fight recently that he could have lost by split decision. Didn't. Found a way to win. That's the kind of guy you want to put your money on, frankly. Yanez is the type of guy who Billy Q we'll talk about later on in the card. The UFC loves the guy. They'll give you opportunities. They'll bring you back around. They'll say, thanks, champ, and get out there again. No problem. But he's 17-5, taking on 16-0. I think we know what side the UFC likes, and I think I know what side I like. Unfortunately, Daniel Marcos is the play for me. Minus 225. I'm not a huge fan of the price tag. The fight could play out a lot closer than that, but I do also think that Daniel Marcos by KO at plus 200. It's a real fun way to flip a minus 200 favorite into a plus 200 dog. But this, you guys, is exactly the kind of fight that I was talking about when I said that with the new gloves and things like that, you could get a fight that should have ended, but ends up going the distance. We've seen Daniel Marcos drag his ass to a greasy split decision several times already. It's just the way that he fights. So there's a very real chance that this fight goes a full 15. I'm not sure Adrian is built for war that way. Like if he's not starching his opponent, if he's not styling on his opponent, I don't know if he's built for 15 minutes. Frankly, he hasn't gone to a decision since 2019. I mean, the guy is all KOs, and then he's lost like 3 decisions. So he just doesn't have a good track record when it goes the distance. I think Marcos, on the other hand, is very, very skillful at winning those decisions. Half of his wins come by decision, so he knows exactly what he's doing when it gets to the judges' scorecards. Yeah, I like Marcos. I like Marcos. Kind of expecting the KO, like I said, but don't get too invested because decision with this kind of a fight is absolutely on the table. Couple fights left to go, you guys. Dustin Jacobe, 205.5. Vitor Patrino, 204.5. Dustin Jacobe looking spry on the scales today. Looking good, filled out, big flex, but, absolute stun gun over here. Vitor Patrino looking like a monster on the scales, cocky as you could ever get. This is going to be a fun fight, you guys. So Vitor Patrino, I think he is the new Paulo Costa. I talked about this on the Monday show. That's the way I'm kind of thinking of the guy. He is not as powerful as you guys think he is. He is not as violent as the UFC would have you believe. Now, he comes off the regional scene and he's got a million finishes and he's just a KO machine and 11-0 and nobody can hang with him. And then he gets to the UFC and he immediately has a real hard time with guys like Tyson Pedro. And he decides to go to a decision with Anton Tricali, who we've seen finished since then. I mean, the guy doesn't have the kind of power that they're writing home about. And especially, again, I'm sorry, got to say it again, the gloves. This is the kind of fight that you could see go the distance. Dustin Jacobe, 36 years old, Factory X Muay Thai, very good Muay Thai striker, always has been. He got taken out and put in the wood chipper by Dominic in his last fight. Now, Dom Reyes is far more athletic and hits harder. In my opinion, to the eye test, it looks like he hits harder than Vitor Patrino. He's more athletic. He's got better boxing. So that's the guy that got him, right? He went to a decision with Khalil Roundtree. He went to a decision with Alonzo Manifield. I think this guy is more durable than people are getting him credit for. And yes, he's getting a little bit older, but he's not like falling off a cliff age-wise or anything like that. That I think this is going to be a very, very competitive fight. Now, Vitor Patrino could look to use the grappling. We have seen him do that before, and that's been very successful for him. Dustin Jacobe has been working on his MMA game. I could see him getting back up to his feet and making it not quite the problem. But like the lines are backwards to me. Vitor Patrino by knockout is plus 110. Vitor Patrino by decision is plus 240. And then Dustin Jacobe by decision is plus 500. I would be looking at those decision props, you guys. I like the over 1.5. It's chalked all the way up to minus 200, so maybe not. I like the fight goes the distance. I like the over 2.5. Those are plus money. I think this is exactly the kind of fight where we rely on those UFC gloves, and we have this fight go a little bit longer than people are expecting it to. I don't think Vitor Patrino is just the massive power puncher that people think he is. And Dustin Jacobe ran face first into Dominic Reyes. He's not going to do that a second time. He's not going to do that against Vitor Patrino in this spot. So I do think we're going to get more of a technical kickboxing match. And frankly, if we're getting 15 minutes on the feet and Vitor can't find those big moments where he hurts a guy and stumbles him or knocks him down, or if he's able to not get the grappling going, like Jacoby's just a far better fighter. And the final piece of this puzzle, you guys, when they face off, Jacoby's the bigger man. Jacobe actually is slightly larger than Vitor Patrino. So Vitor Patrino, his whole thing is I'm a giant monster and I'm stronger than you and I hit harder and I'm more physical. And he is more physical. Yeah. Oh, really, Zelda? Well, there you have it. Let me look real quick here. Okay. We heard you. Thank you. That's plenty. One other thing I want to note here is Dom Reyes is far larger. than Vitor Patrino is. Let me get this picture up here for you guys real quick because I found it. Not far larger, but like it's notable. You know what I mean? Dustin Jacobe slightly larger than Vitor Patrino, and then Dom Reyes is larger on the other side. So I really think people are going to be reading too far into that KO loss in his last fight. He could. Okay, we heard you. Shush. People, you know, obviously he could get KO'd again, but I'm not sold on Vitor Patrino personally. I'm not. We'll see. Yes, I believe Dustin is live. And frankly, you guys, this is the one where I think you look at that spread. Again, if you've got DraftKings, you look at those spread bets. This one's intriguing to me because they set it at 5.5. I'm used to seeing the 3.5. And then if they have like a 5-round main event or co-main event, it's like a 9.5 for the spreads. But they actually have a 5.5 for Dustin Jacobe, placed at plus 120. So what they're saying is you get 5 extra judges' scorecards for this spread bet. Instead of 3.5, they're giving you 5.5. They think that Vitor Patrino is going to knock him out. That's exactly what the books are telling you. He's a minus 300 favorite. His KO prop is plus 110. The minus 5.5 is minus 165. They're expecting a fully dominant 30-27 from this guy or a finish. And anything else is dog odds. I think Dustin Jacobe plus 5.5 is probably a half decent bet. I think he can survive and get to a decision. And if all he has to do is win one close round on a couple judges' scorecards, I think that's entirely possible. Okay. Next up, you guys. We get into the good stuff. Bruno Silva takes on Manel Kope. Bruno Silva came in at 126. Manel Kope somehow made 125 pounds, which, you know, scale shenanigans, maybe. Maybe. He's been very, very well documented struggling getting to this weight class, but look at the guy. He looks dialed in. He looks in shape. He's got abs. You can see the veins. Like, Manel Kope is ready to go. He knows exactly what is in front of him at this stage in his career. He knows exactly what he's dealing with as far as opportunities goes. Here's in this spot. And frankly, you guys, the UFC has been trying to set Manel Kope up with a title shot. I've got a burnt and dead Manel Kope champion 2024 ticket in my pocket because the UFC is trying to push this guy so far. He's an absolute star overseas. And this is a weight class that is starved for contenders. Now, Manel Kope has found a way to fuck it up. Every single time they've given him an opportunity. He was supposed to fight Mateus Nicolau, and that was going to be the fight that gave him the opportunity at the title. He missed weight, and Mateus Nicolau was smart enough to pull out of that fight because he was a dead man walking going into that one. And then he got the fight against Muhammad Mokaev. A very interesting fight where Mokaev, shout out, just got his most recent win over on the regional scene after getting dropped by the UFC via first round sub. So, you know, props to Mokaev for doing the work. But he got cut, and in that fight, the referee essentially let him get away with murder. I mean, the amount of fouls that they could have called on Mokaev in that fight, holding the gloves, holding the pants, grabbing the fence. I mean, it was everything you could think of that he found a way to get himself an advantage, and then he won that decision, basically tanking any opportunity I ever had at a bet on Manel Kope to go ahead and get the title shot. If Manel Kope wins that fight, he's challenging for the title last weekend at UFC 310 instead of being one of the upper cards here on this fight card. Dixon, my guy, Merry Christmas. Thank you for that. So I do think that Manel Kope's being put in yet another winnable situation here. Bruno Silva is the older of these two fighters, again, by a little bit of a margin here, 34 years old. Yes, former training partner with Henry Cejudo. Yes, now at ATT, formerly at Fight Ready. But he is going to be the older man in this spot. And he is, frankly, guys, just never gotten to where he needs to go. Lost to Tagir Ulanbekov, lost to David Dvorak. No contest with Khalid Taha, went to a split with Casey Kinney, who hung it up and is beating people in his backyard now. He's been knocked out before. He's been submitted before. I mean, he's 34 years old. And even though he looks career best right now on a 4-fight win streak, Tyson Nam cut from the UFC. Cody Durden beating the shit out of him before he turned the table with a single uppercut. JP Buys, enough said. Like, those are the guys that he's beating. This is a massive, massive, massive step up in competition for Bruno Silva. I know a lot of people think he's barking in this spot. I know a lot of people think this line is too wide. And frankly, on Monday, I kind of had the similar thoughts myself. But the more I kind of sit and digest on this should be Manel Kope's fight. It's hard to trust Manel Kope because he goes in the bad fight IQ trash bin that we talk about. You just kind of chuck him in there because he makes bonehead mistakes. He plays with his food. He'll get in there and he feels like he's winning a fight and he thinks he's styling on a guy, but he's doing nothing. He's like staring at you and not doing jack shit. So the judges end up scoring the round for the guy being more active when he's just standing there. And that is something that I can't stand for the life of me. There's nothing worse than screaming, do something at the TV when you've got a parlay or a bet or something on a fighter like that. But when these guys faced off, guys, Manel Kape's huge. Like, I've never said that before. He does not look massive against a lot of the people that he's fought recently. He's so much bigger than Bruno Silva. This is a big step up in competition for Bruno Silva. It's technically a break in competition for Manel Kape. He's not going to have to worry about literally any version of the game of Bruno Silva. He's got more power. He's the better striker. He's the better athlete. Is Bruno out wrestling him? I don't think so. Like, he just dealt with Muhammad Mokaev. Mokaev is a better grappler or wrestler than Bruno Silva is. BJJ black belt. You could worry about the sub, but how's he going to get the fight there? Is Bruno Silva going to climb on his back? I don't think so. So, I mean, like, the more I sit and I just stew on this, I really think this is an easy fight for Manel Kape to win as long as he pulls his head out of his ass. So it's Manel Kape for me. Now, the problem here, again, don't get tricky. This is one where I will concur. Do not get tricky, because he could win this fight any way he wants, and you don't know what that's going to be until he gets in there on the night. I've seen him submit guys. He's got a very underrated submission game. He is a BJJ black belt. He's got crazy power. He can throw flying knees and end the fight as soon as he wants to. He can knock people out, no problem. And he also can sit back and jab and poke, and he'll knock you down, and he'll dance in the center of the cage while you get back up. And instead of finishing you, he'll go the full distance. So he can win this fight literally any way he wants to. Sub is plus 900. I don't mind a long shot dart at that. I don't think he's submitting Bruno Silva, but you just never know. KO would be the way that I would lean here at plus 225. We've seen Bruno Silva get hurt on the feet before. Cody Durden had him in trouble in the last fight. But again, just be careful, because this guy could choose to go to a decision, which is minus 105. So they're kind of letting you know with these numbers, we think it's a decision, and the only one you've got any kind of a deal on is the sub. So they're not going to let you get too big of a win on much of anything. But I do think it's a Manel Kape spot. I do think Manel Kape is the deserved favorite, and Dixon Sider knows what's up. The new gloves equal decision. The only thing with that, Dixon, is gloves don't go on knees. So if Manel decides to go ahead and fly through the sky like a majestic fucking eagle, he can finish the fight via flying knockout in that manner instead. All right, guys, do me a favor, hit the like button. Please share the show if you haven't already. We got 2 more fights to talk about. Let's get through these so I can go and get some dinner. Next fight up, you've got Cub Swanson, 146, taking on Billy Q, also 146 pounds. Billy Q looking good. I listened to an interview that he did with my boy James Lynch, and apparently he took this fight more seriously than anything ever. He's calling it his Stanley Cup. He's calling it his Super Bowl. He's a big fan of Cub Swanson, and he's wanting to show out in this fight more than anything. He said that he had some mistakes that he made when training for and preparing for Zalal, and frankly, guys, he said he looked past Youssef Zalal in that last fight, which explains some of the way he got absolutely wrecked. His opponent, Cub Swanson, 42 years old, looking damn good for a 42-year-old. I need the vitamins and the supplement game plan that he is on, because, I need to look like that at 42 years old. My God, that mustache. All right, guys. This is a Billy Q spot to me. So the world was piling in on Billy Q last fight against my boy Youssef Zalal, and we had to teach them the way of Zalal 2.0. We had to let them know that night, and everyone found out. But what people are doing now is they're going, oh, Billy Q's washed, and he might be. He very well might be. He's looked like he's had a little bit of a up and down the last couple of fights, so it's true. But if he's still got anything left in the tank, I think he's got more than Cub Swanson does. Now, I kind of like violence in this fight. Because Cub Swanson does hit hard enough to knock people out. We've seen incredibly durable fighters get stung by his power even recently and get finished by Cub. So I do think he's got an early path to victory by knockout, and Billy Q runs face first into punches. He doesn't really believe in striking defense. So I think Cub could take advantage of that. And then Billy Q is just a cardio machine, will turn it up on people. And we've seen Cub on the backslide of his career here kind of struggle, and he doesn't have the same type of cardio that he used to. And I do think there is a chance that Billy Q melts this guy, being the younger guy with more gas in the tank, put more pressure on him. I wanted to look at maybe the sub prop, because Billy Q is an underrated grappler, but frankly, you look back at the numbers on his fight career here in the UFC, he doesn't tend to go for subs. It's plus 650. And I was like, ooh, that looks like a nice targetable type of submission prop. But all he does is strike. He takes people down, he gets them tired, he works them up, and then he starts going to work with ground and pound. So I think the KO probably for Billy Q or Cub is the way to go if you're looking for a finish on this fight. And I don't mind the under. Fight doesn't go the distance at right about even money. I think makes some sense. I could see this fight going the distance. Obviously, we've talked about the gloves more times than I care to admit on this show. So that's definitely something that you've got to bear in mind. But I think Cub is going to go out there and try to put on a performance. And then when the tide turns, I think Billy Q is going to look to make a statement. So it's like early action Cub, late action Billy Q. And unless Billy Q just kind of has like a soft spot for a legend or something like that and decides to take his foot off the gas, which he's never, ever done before, I think he'll find his way to a finish. So for me, it's Billy Q. Last fight of the evening, you guys, your main event, and one of the most exciting fights on the card to talk about. Colby Covington takes on none other than Joaquin Buckley. Both guys came in at 171 pounds. I feel like this is the home for Joaquin Buckley. Look at that man. My God. Like he's puffy at 185 pounds, but when he cuts down to 170, he just looks like a destructive monster. Like, look at the muscle on that guy. It's unfreaking real. And now Colby, on the other hand, for being a washed old bastard, he actually looks pretty freaking good coming in here into this fight. I like this fight, you guys. So it's funny because on Monday, I kind of said, gun to my head, I'm going to pick Joaquin Buckley. Like a lot of the lines on this card, I don't like the favorite number here. Buckley is a guy who's been very untrustworthy throughout his entire UFC run. We've seen him get kind of not fraud checked because he's never really been that kind of a guy. So, you know, like ceiling checked a couple different times. Now he's only 30 years old, so there's definitely room for him to adjust and develop and grow and stuff like that. But he likes to bring the fight. He likes to get in there and brawl it out. His wrestling has shown some improvements, but we've seen him slow down in fights that get extended, and we've seen him finished in fights that get extended. He's been knocked out in the second and the third round. He's got 4 KO losses, frankly, and he gets over aggressive sometimes. Alessio Di Chirico knocked him out back in 2021. I lost a bundle on that one. We've seen him fall apart in fights before. Now, again, 30 years old, finally getting some training partners, not pissing off every gym that he goes to. Maybe he has a better performance here. Maybe he's in a bit of a better place. Maybe he'll be able to, you know, turn that corner. But it's a 5-round main event against the guy in Colby Covington who's going to put a wrestling pace on him like he's never seen before. Now, even at 36 years old, Colby Covington's still one of the best cardio wrestlers in the entire division. I'm not sure what to make of his last fight. I thought he was going to be able to take down and kind of rinse Leon Edwards. Broke his foot in the first round, I guess. It's Colby. So I don't know what I can trust and what I can't. I haven't seen the x-rays of his foot. So I don't know if he actually broke his foot or not. It's not like Cyril Gahn who posted the x-rays of his foot the day after the fight. So I'm not sure if that's actually true or not, but he could have hurt his foot. That could be very true. But he does have good, solid cardio. And even in that Leon Edwards fight in rounds 4 and round 5, he did actually get the grappling going. He ended the fight on top of Leon Edwards. So in a championship fight, that favors Colby Covington. And I think it still does to this day. And he's just another level of competitor that Buckley has never really faced or seen before. Now, it's a spot where Colby is a little bit on the small side for 170 pounds. You know, Buckley is a little shorter than him, but we just looked at the picture, the amount of muscle on that guy's frame. He hung around at 185 just for shits and giggles for a while. So he's going to be the naturally bigger, stronger guy. But I think with the way he explodes over and over and over again, that kind of falls into the hands of Colby Covington. That's the type of fighter that Colby can dump and make work and, you know, trip and make get up again. And yeah, Dixon Sider, good call. I'm going to switch to the tinfoil cap here for that one. If Trump is in the crowd, Colby always loses. Be on the lookout. Good to know. I'm not sure if he'll be in the crowd for this one though, because it's not a named pay-per-view, right? It's not a big number pay-per-view card. So I don't know if Trump will even bother going. I think this is a spot where you can live bet Colby Covington. I expect Joaquin Buckley to start out very good, very strong, but I think Colby will work his way back into the fight as it goes on. I think the plus 9.5 spread for Colby Covington is probably a very good fight because we've seen Buckley knock people out. We absolutely have. He's got that kind of explosive power, but Colby Covington is a guy that you don't knock out. And, you know, Wonder Boy is old and washed, and that was a terrible fight for him. And he's 40 years old, and he was winning that fight up until the point that he got knocked out. So it kind of was a Hail Mary from Joaquin Buckley. He had to rely on the wrestling against Nursultan Fradzibov in that last fight to be able to get the win there in that spot. So Vicente Luque, that was the fight where he completely gave up on himself. It wasn't necessarily Buckley doing Buckley. It was Vicente Luque literally didn't want that fight and got out of there. So there's a lot of questions as far as what Buckley's been able to do lately. And there's a lot of questions about where Colby Covington is at. I know this is a really long-winded way of saying that it's probably dog or pass, and I don't really know what to make of it. But that's the reality of the situation, you guys. We've got a lot of conflicting information to work through on this one. And Colby's the type of fighter where he'll sell you down the river. He knows how to cut a promo. He knows how to make you care about his fights. He always has. So he will absolutely say whatever he needs to get you involved. And then you'll find out on Saturday night that he's been fighting with two broken hands and has no chance of winning the fight. Like you can't rely on a thing the guy says. So I want to bet Colby Covington here. I really do. I am not laying this kind of price tag on Joaquin Buckley. I think that's historically just a terrible decision because he never covers these kinds of price tags. I want Joaquin Buckley when he's an underdog. I want him when he's a near even money favorite. You know, everyone remembers the highlight reel KO over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but he was losing the fight before that happened. You know what I mean? That's not the kind of spot I want to find myself in. He was a big favorite over my boy Action Man. Keep giving me plus money on Chris Curtis. I keep telling you guys. You know, that's what happens with this guy. So Colby is not somebody who you can expect to get in there and outbox him or something like that. He doesn't have those kind of hands. He doesn't have that kind of power to dissuade someone like Joaquin Buckley. And it's funny because I had a bit of a hot take on Monday that Colby Covington was going to gas Buckley out and then TKO him late in the fight. And I'm going to amend that just ever so slightly. Colby Covington is always going to grapple. Like he's going to get on top of you and grapple. That's all the guy does. He doesn't knock anybody out. He's got 3 KO wins in his entire, professional career. The last TKO victory was the rib injury of Tyrone Woodley, not something he actually did to go ahead and get that win. Before that, it was the Max Griffin TKO. But what he can do is actually find his way to a back. He's got submissions from there. He's got the arm triangle. He's got the rear naked choke. Those are the classic wrestler positions. When your opponent gets tired, what do we say, guys? What's the mantra for 2024? Tired people tap. I would look at maybe sprinkling Colby Covington by sub in round 4 and round 5. It's 90-1 and 100-1, you guys. I mean, these are like, you just need like fish food type of sprinkles on those things to make them worth it. I know if Colby wins, it's probably a decision. He's probably not finishing anybody. He never does, and he hasn't in a long time. But at 90-1 or 100-1, I will sprinkle just a little bit. I'm gonna have to. So Colby Covington by sub rather than by TKO, I think is probably the way to go at this advanced stage of his career. And again, the problem for me again is that Buckley's been KO'd a couple of times, and that's kind of where I wanted to take advantage of him, is that chin. But it's power strikers, guys that can get him on the feet, guys that can head kick him. And I know Colby's got a little head kick on him, but it's not really his MO. It's not really his thing. Even if Colby hurts him, he's probably going to shoot for a double leg instead of following up on it. So I'm not sure the KO is even worth it at that point. But maybe you just don't get goofy, right? Maybe we just go the round props and just go 4 and 5 just in case. Because Tyrone Woodley's rib popped out that one time. So at 40-1 and 45-1, maybe we just touch those instead of getting crazy with the 90 and the 100-1s. All right, you guys, that is the Undefeated post weigh-in show. Thank you all so much for being here. I wish you absolutely massive piles of luck tomorrow. Make sure you're on the lookout on social media. I'll get that MMA holiday parlay out for you guys here in just a little bit. I will post my final card up either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. You guys have no idea. I have so many presents that I have to wrap tonight. My ass is going to be sore sitting on the floor until about 2 a.m. because I just have to wrap presents for the next 48 hours, getting ready for all the different holiday parties and all that kind of bullshit. So pray for your boy. I wish you nothing but well, you guys. Good luck. Cash tickets. Let's make money. Let's end the year on a positive note. Let's roll.